Pebbles and Stones. It comes from 1 Peter chapter 2:5, where Peter talks about all of us coming together like living stones and being built into this wonderful building to be a house of worship. So in Pebbles and Stones, we're very intentional on bringing the generations together to experience God's love in the communities in which they live. So when we gather, we have a time of praise and worship and the telling of God's story. And the telling of God's story, we use it as from a storyteller's perspective. And we know that historically, and in studying the development of children, that across the world, everyone is engaged in hearing a good story. In the Pebbles and Stones model, we raise up leaders from within the communities in which the children live. And so in using that as our approach, we don't have a lot of problems with working through cultural differences, because our leaders are leaders from those that know the people in which they're working for. A typical Pebbles and Stones meeting usually lasts for an hour to an hour and a half. And during that time, I think there's 3 areas that we really focus on. And that would be the telling of God's story and the listening time. What is God saying to us through his story? And then how does his story become our story as we share our thoughts on the story and pray for each other. We've developed several series of curriculum. The first one is God Speaks. Each curriculum has the teacher's manual. We have a resource CD in the back and a worship CD. We also have individual journals, so that each participant has their own journal with the Bible verse. And Kids Love to Pray too is based on Dr. Alvin Vandengren's book called Love to Pray. And we also have I Love to Pray too, which is a 40-day devotional for children on prayer. The children, as they've come through Pebbles and Stones, actually turn around in many of the church centers and become leaders themselves. Their outward actions begin to change, and the parents have called and say, "What's going on in your meetings, because my child's not the same." Or they'll call and say, "We're not a church family, but our children are now so excited about God, we really want to plug into a church." Not only can children hear God's voice, but they were created to hear God's voice.